from the Jackson.
What's up, y'all? This is Relly, y'all, back with another video. Yes, and today we'll be talking about 3 trades the Milwaukee Bucks have to do in order to be legit contenders for the finals. Now, for starters, you might be asking, what do you mean they have to be complete finals contenders? They're finals contenders right now, and I would say to you, not necessarily. Now, I would say, yes, they have the best record in the NBA, being 33-6. But I recently watched a video, and where they asked Scottie Pippen, "Do you think Giannis is feared?"
Against you.
Not quite, not yet. Giannis is bringing a lot, but in this league, you have to have 2 megastars
In the NBA, do you think Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks is feared? Scottie Pippen would say no. And he would say no because it's not because of Giannis, but because they do not have a second legitimate star to answer in the case of when Giannis is zoned, trapped, or limited on offense. You might ask, what does that mean? That means we're not saying Giannis is a bad player. We're not saying Giannis cannot get a team to the finals. We're not saying Giannis is not one of the most incredible superstars that we have currently in the NBA. We're saying Giannis cannot do it by himself.
That is blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
Which means you have to give him another star. And you might say, yeah, he got Chris Middleton. But yes, Chris Middleton is a good player, but he is not a star. He's not a superstar. And when we say superstars, we're talking about a Dame. We're talking about a Kyrie. We're talking about a Karl-Anthony Towns. Or we're talking about an abundance of role players. But even with abundance of role players, you still need a star. So I say this to say this: I have 3 trades that could potentially move the nozzle for the Milwaukee Bucks. For starters, the first trade that I ever created, the first trade that I thought about, I researched, and I really had to push the needle between would I think this trade would work, would be a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks and the
Have you ever had a dream that you
San Antonio Spurs? This first trade involves them giving up Eric Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, and George Hill to try to get DeMar DeRozan and Rudy Gay.
What the deuce?
Now, you ask, is that just a 2 for 3, just a regular 2 for 3? No, Milwaukee Bucks, of course, would have to give up some first rounds. How many would be on them, but they would have to give up some first rounds to make this trade fair for San Antonio, because San Antonio is not going to willingly give up talent they know they can still make the playoff with, especially when San Antonio is not known for being a rebuilding team. Not in a bad way, but because they've always been considered competitive. Now, and that's probably the one shaky trade that could be questionable. It is more than likely not to happen than it is to happen, because the San Antonio Spurs has proven time and time again that they are not a team that like to go in the direction of rebuilding or trying to be in a team that's not trying to be competitive. So that trade is possible. The numbers is possible, the figures is possible, and the probability is possible, but the chances, the legit probability, the realistic probability of a real life scenario may be varied. The second trade, which is not a star, which is hypocritical of the point I made, but it gives them a little bit more depth, and this player is sort of kind of borderline a star. He's borderline someone who could be close to a star. He's just not there at this point. And this trade would have everything to do with the Memphis Grizzlies, which means they would have to give up George Hill and Robin Lopez to acquire Andrew Iguodala. And y'all might say, why do they need Andre? Why do they need Andre? Because Andre is still a player that can play both sides of the court. He's a wing player, and he has shown you in playoffs time and time again that he can be the leader, he can be the leading scorer, he can be your leading defender, and you match him up with Giannis, and that gives a lot of different changes you can do, especially if you pick Chris Middleton at the 2, Iguodala at the 3, depending on how you want to mismatch that. And that gives a lot of variety when they play teams like the Lakers and the Clippers, because they have these wing players that can guard a lot of multiple positions. Now, with the final trade, which is the most blockbuster trade of the other two, of the following two, because this is when the Milwaukee Bucks would be retrieving a star that we are very critical about, because we feel like he can do so much more, and we've always questioned his toughness. And by that, you probably already figured out who I'm referring to. It is Karl-Anthony Towns. This trade obviously would have everything to do with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Milwaukee Bucks would be giving up Eric Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, George Hill, and Sterling Brown, couple first-round picks, to achieve Karl-Anthony Towns, Robert Covington, and Shabazz Napier. You ask, why would the Milwaukee Bucks make this trade? Because you get a big man who is the best shooting big man in the NBA that would fit perfectly with Giannis, especially since Karl-Anthony Towns plays the 5. Yes, he is a defensive liability, but when you have Giannis and you can stretch the floor, an actual hitter, somebody who is known to be consistent, which has been the Milwaukee Bucks' problem. They haven't had a consistent three-point hitters, and you are one, and you're a big guy. You fit the Milwaukee Bucks' position identity perfectly, while giving them Robert Covington, who is a 3-and-D player, which means they lose no defense, they gain defense, and trading away Eric Bledsoe, and they just get it back because Rocco knows his role. He understands his role. He's been on teams where he's understood why he's there on the team, and Rocco being able to play the 3 and the power forward would make so much different type of combinations they could do. And even on defense, they could put him on most 2s, and he would cause havoc because he is that good defensively, and like I said before, he can shoot 3s. And then Shabazz Napier, a lot of people sleep on Shabazz Napier because it's Shabazz Napier, but Shabazz Napier is incredible. He can hit from the 3, he can drive, he's a pretty good playmaker, he can pass the ball pretty well, but with Giannis on the floor, Shabazz Napier would not have that role to be the ultimate ball handler. He would have the go to be a hitter, which Shabazz Napier, I feel, would fit in that role. Like, for the Milwaukee Bucks, the 1s and the 2s is really not 1s and 2s. They're more, well, the 1s is not really 1s. They're really 2 guards. They're really shooting guards. Point guards would really be the shooting guards. So Shabazz Napier would really be able to pop out on the wing, let Giannis create the offense for you, and all you have to do is knock down your jumpers, which makes it an even better variety for the Milwaukee Bucks. And you say, why would the Minnesota take this deal? Because, first of all, Karl-Anthony Towns is not winning in Minnesota anytime soon.
You suck!
I think we all see that. Minnesota Timberwolves is a joke of an organization, which means they have to cash in eventually, which means Milwaukee is a team that wants to win, so trade them to a winner, and Milwaukee and value would give you a lot of first-round picks to reward you for your compensation, to re-compensate you for this mishaps, which means you gain some first-round picks, you gain some players, you gain a veteran player in Eric Bledsoe, you gain a player in Brook Lopez, so you technically still could be competitive, but at the same time, you know you have players that's aging, whose contract is soonly going to end, and then you can legitly start your rebuild. You get George Hill, whose contract, is George Hill, but you understand, you know why you got these players. And Sterling Brown is 24 years old. He's a shooting guard, which means, you can also use him to grow, but in reality, you're not really prizing over these 4 players. You're prizing over the first round picks that you received. And that's why I think this deal would actually realistically happen, because Minnesota needs to give up some assets. Milwaukee needs to gain some assets, and them knowing that they would be willing to give up these first round picks because they're in win now mode. And with Karl-Anthony Towns matched with Giannis, that would be a monster. That would be something to talk about in the Eastern Conference, and that would be a finals contender, and this would be the team Scottie Pippen would be referring to. Now, with that being said, if you like today's video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And do not forget to hit the notification bell for more amazing content, because we are on the grind. We are on the official grind, and we will not stop. So, With that being said, Ghost.